This is the grave of my great, 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 great grandfather. We're back in Ontario, Canada, the land of the forefathers that gave me my last name. This is the grave of David Willits. Actually, David Willits II, born in 1811 in New York and died here in Lynden, Ontario, Canada in May of 1877. He's actually David II. It was his father that moved up here just a year after he was born during the War of 1812. Back then, the Willits were Quakers. My family settled in America in 1640, founded several towns on Long Island in New York, which was then New Amsterdam. It wasn't even British yet, much less the United States. And because the Quakers were rebels, right? They were pacifists, just kind of like how I stay politically neutral today or out of the fray. They were being hated on all over the place and tried to move up here to get out of the way of the war. Little did they know that the United States would invade this part of Upper Canada, as it was called then. And David I, this David's father, was the first one to change his name from Willets to what my last name is, Willits. So this is the first Willits to sort of be raised up in Canada. And interestingly enough, David II had a son, David III, David B. Willits. He's not directly related to me, but a great uncle of sorts. This is about to get very personal here in the beginning of this. Just bear with me. And this is absolutely wild for me. You know how much I like history. Here, finally, is some history with literally my name on it. The Willits were farmers up here. They had a little plot of land just to the west of the small, very tiny village of Lynden that I am parked at this moment. This is amazing. I love these old-timey graves. And in Southern California, where I was born and raised, we don't have graves like this, except for the very early pioneers, and none of them are related to me out there. So this is a very special place indeed. I came to Canada, came all the way up here because this, well, not right here in this graveyard, but this general area is where my dad was born, his father was born, his father, his father, his father, his father. They were Canadian farmers. There's all kinds of other branches that feed in your family. You know, like I said, I have DNA from all over the place, Sicily, North Africa, Greece, everywhere. But these English Quaker ancestors are the ones I got my name from. They married a lot of Scotch Canadian farmers up here, so I got a lot of Scottish in me. And I am absolutely in awe that I am standing on the ground where my great-great-great-great-grandfather was buried in 1877. Before I move down and show you the village, I was just having a moment here, just talking out loud to the ancestors and things. And it occurred to me that that was the last Willits born in the United States before they came to Canada, and I was the first one born in the United States afterwards. So we have something kind of in common. We're sort of bookends to the Canadian family, father to son, father to son. And so I was just having a little bit of a conversation here. I don't know much about the afterlife in that I've never been there, or I haven't been there yet. I hope not to go for a while, but I always hope, you know, they can hear us or know the feelings or thoughts, or somehow those feelings go out in the universe and they're reciprocated. These people gave me my name. That is so amazing. For those of you who don't know, Scarred is just the name of my old band, and so it was just a way to differentiate me from 5 other Justins in punk rock bands. But my last name actually is Willits, and this right here is one of the ancestors that gave me that name and passed it down all the way to me and to my son. And this is as close, this part of Ontario, Canada, around Brantford, St. George, Lynden, the Ancaster Township, Hamilton, this area here is as close a thing as I have in my family to roots. All of my other family members were all immigrants from Scotland to Canada, then to California, or from Sicily to St. Louis to California, and all recent immigrants within the last sort of 100 years. Well, 150 years or something like that. But the Willits are the people that stayed in one place the longest, or one region the longest, farming, mostly simple farmers or laborers. And like I said, it's a little personal, and I'm taking a moment here. You can forgive me for that, but it's because this is a little bit of history that relates directly to me. You know, I love places like Gettysburg, where we just were, or just places all over the country, all kinds of historic sites and monuments and things that have to do with my home country of the United States history. But this is a little bit of history that's very, very personal. It's in the blood, as it were. Which is a very strange phrase to use, but you know what I mean. You know, to touch my name on a tombstone here, which I don't often get to do, and know that that is my name handed down to me as sort of my only inheritance from these people. It's just, I have goosebumps and a little bit eyes sweaty with respect, on and off when the camera's off. And although I haven't dived into my own genealogy for a while, I know that there are also many other relatives and cousins and people that were married into the family here in this very cemetery. And obviously all those people that were here in the 1870s would have known each other for miles and miles around, got together for barn dances, for church services. And by the way, the Willits family that left the United States from Pennsylvania, where they were at just before they fled because of the war and stuff, they were Quakers. But as far as I can tell, David Willits and his son here, David II, that we just visited the headstone of, we don't know where David Sr. is. He is possibly here on this property, more likely was buried on his own farm just outside of town. But as far as I can tell, they were the first ones to stop being Quakers and join a united church out here. And one of those churches, the one that presumably this David Willits' funeral was at, and presumably the church that this family attended, is just here in the little village of Lynden. I'm just noticing that the only bigger obelisk in the cemetery was built in 1928. It has very much the same style, so this fella right here must have admired my ancestors' obelisk over there, or plinth, or whatever you want to call it, and copied it and done a little bit of a bigger version, huh? And look at this, the top piece has apparently fallen off, which makes me wonder if there was originally a top piece to my ancestors' headstone over here. Very interesting. Now the name has worn off the other side of the tomb, but I believe my great-great-great-great-grandmother Elizabeth is also buried in this cemetery. As you can see, many of the headstones have fallen over. Some are a little bit buried into the grass. Some have been laid flat out here over the years as different families move away and things change. But all of these people here from the 19th century, they all would have known my great-great-great-great, there's 4 greats, grandfather up there on the hill. And I know that because this is the church cemetery, or was the church cemetery, and they all attended the small church right over here in the village. We're gonna see in just 1 second. This is obviously like a little bit before, but you know, kind of the Anne of Green Gables times, before automobiles. But I was just picturing driving down the roads here, people in those old-timey clothes going by in their old horse and buggy, waving to each other, all the farmers knowing each other from the harvests and all those types of things, and just being amazed that, wow, for all the history that I explore all over the country and around the world, wherever I go, this is some of mine. It's spooky, gives me goosebumps all over. I'm actually seeing names that I've seen in my sort of extended genealogical tree here. So I'm just wandering around, paying my respects to every tombstone here, because you never know who's an ancestor, a cousin, an uncle, cousin, sister, brother. You know what I mean? It was a very common practice in the 19th and early 20th century to come out to graveyards and walk among the tombstones and contemplate the dead. I don't think we do that as much this day and age. And I think it is kind of important, especially if there's some ancestors there. It just gives you a sense of perspective, you know. If we're lucky, one day will be a tombstone with our name still etched on it, and someone might come to visit us. But in the words of the immortal poet, all things must pass, you know? I wonder how it works, or who you have to talk to like get the stone re-etched deeper, you know, restored. Because obviously this one is a little bit faded on this side over here. But how amazing is that? Here are my relatives. Crazy. Okay, so let's walk down a little ways into the village. And when I say a little ways, I mean here's the graveyard, and there's the center of the village right there. It's one of those places where the cemetery is so small and old, there wasn't even a sidewalk on that side, or a driveway or anything. So I sort of parked up here on the crossroads. I'm surprised there's a sidewalk here at all, to be honest with you. But here it is, the 4-way stop that is the modern center of the village of Lynden, Ontario, Canada. And right over there is the Lynden United Church. Wow. And most of the houses that I can see in the village today are obviously newer ones that have replaced older houses that have lost to the ravages of time. There are a few older ones here, and boy, they are gorgeous. No doubt this house was standing here when some of my ancestors were rolling through town. And this, in fact, is the church, the Lynden United Church, completed in 1870, so 7 years before my great-great-great-great-grandfather passed away that he and subsequently his children must have attended to be buried in that cemetery. And it is absolutely gorgeous. They're not using this entrance today. There's this sort of dedication plaque up there saying 1870. Wow. They're not using it, this entrance today, but they are still using the church. The church is still a viable church, and it's amazing. Look at the old wrought iron fence work that still survives. There's a little sign for the church, the modern light-up sign that says, "Everyone welcome, Sunday service, 10 a.m. How cool is that? I hope I'm here one day on a Sunday so I can pop into this church and see the inside of the building that my ancestors would have gone to Sunday service at. I don't know if it's stained glass, but I can see some patterned windows in there. And then look at that. Look at that gorgeous bell tower. And look at the doorway over here. Incredible. Oh, I can see the bell. Look at that over there. Oh, beautiful clock. There's a plaque on it that says 2002. I don't know when that got here, but look at, there's the church bell. I'm actually wondering if they do use the inside of the old church, because there's clearly a new church building here. Although, look at this. I see behind it, this must be the rectory or something, because that is somebody's windows right there with curtains in it and everything. Wow, unbelievable. Oh, a little heritage plaque right there. So this is wild. I think of like Anne of Green Gables or that show Avonlea, right? Because of my Canadian ancestors who were here in those times. And it kind of helps me to picture the outfits and the style of talking, the style of church service even that would have been going on. I believe maybe it's a Methodist church now. I don't know if it really was a Methodist church back then. I'm not sure on my Protestant history there. I'm a little bit over the, I'm like, on one sense, I'm like sort of reverent and thinking these deep thoughts. And on the other hand, I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. You know, some Willits family history right here. You know, whatever you think of Methodists or Canadians or small town farmers, they were the people that created me, you know? A lot of people these days don't have respect for church or church people or whatever, for whatever reason. Or maybe they'd be part of one faith and kind of disrespect their ancestors that were part of another. But it took all of these ancestors to make me. So I have respect for everything they did that was good or wholesome or helpful in their lives. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing that this church building still exists just down the road from the graveyard. And I can't believe it. My ancestors were in this church. Let me check out that bell, dude. I've got to check out that church bell. That's amazing. This might be the very bell David Willits would have heard back in the day, chiming him in to church, or maybe marking the hours in the village. His farm is not so far away that they wouldn't hear the church bell. That is absolutely incredible. I've got to touch it, you know. I know there's wasps underneath it, but I had to touch the bell there. Wow, oh yeah, here we go. This is like a breezeway here, or like an additional hallway that goes into a clearly newer building. Still looks relatively old, but a newer building. You can see some stained glass in these windows here. Look at this beautiful bench. Look at the garden. All of this part of Ontario is like a garden. There's a tiny little cemetery across the street on the corner. It's not related to the church as far as I can tell, or maybe it was the rectors of the church or something like that. But the actual main church cemetery just back there, past the sign you can see, that's where we were standing at the beginning of the video. Now, I'm not out here just for graveyards and graves. Last night I drove all the way up to see my dad's great aunt. I used to come up here in the summers. I came a few times in the summers and stayed with my great grandmother. Her son, my dad's dad, passed away before I was born, but I got to know his dad, I got to know his mom, so my great grandparents out here, and then all their daughters are still living, still with us. I have 3 great aunts up here and many, many cousins and things like that. And I'm gonna visit all 3 great aunts today. We're gonna drive around a bit, see some of the old farms and places where my family lived and worked, but this goes back way farther than any living memory here. The Lynden United Church, the church that my great grandfather attended, presumably had his funeral at, and then was carried just down the road here to that cemetery. Mind-blowing. By the way, Allie is here. She was just looking at the little seed library right there, because of course this is still very much a farming community. It's just great. Just been walking around. I just love these older houses. I was gonna drive you guys past where the Willits actually had their farm, but there's just a modern house there and nothing much else to see. Most of the property is like kind of skinny and goes back from the road, but it's just down this road, the Governor's Road. I just wanted to get a look at the front of this place one more time. It's just so gorgeous. I wish I could see inside the church, but there's a lot of bees on these bushes right here under the windows. I haven't had a chance to peek in yet. Oh, and it's kind of like frosted glass, you know, maybe replaced in the 70s or something, that weird like 70s glass that you can't see through, stippled glass. I don't know what you call it. Allie's loving it though. The architecture, the fact that this whole region is like a garden. And we love spooky old churches. This isn't really that spooky though. Like the setting makes it so gorgeous. It's just like a beautiful little church and a beautiful little cemetery. Anyway, she's gonna go in the cemetery with me now. I went there and did the hunt without her, you know, kind of thing. We're gonna check it out. Uh-oh, we came back to the cemetery and I'm looking at the bigger obelisk now, and there were older dates on it on one side. So it could be possible that my ancestor was the one who copied the style, or his family obviously probably chose it, and copied the style of the big obelisk over here. Maybe they were related somehow through marriage or cousins or best friends. You never know what the reason was. Or maybe I had an ancestor who was like, oh, you know that big one? Do me one just like that. That one's awesome, you know? How cool is that? And the little top piece is still here. We found a lot of buried headstones here, so there could be more Willits. There could be some of the daughters and sons. Obviously, all these people had a lot of sons and daughters back then. Big tribes to help on the farms and all that kind of stuff, but haven't managed to find them. And nobody opened the church. A lot of times when I go to small towns, I get lucky and people will pop out and go, what you doing? Well, you want me to unlock the church for you? But no luck today. Anyway, we're gonna leave Lynden now and go see some of my family members. I don't know if you'll see them or not. That's why I chose to start here. Because that way, even if this is all we got, then I show you a couple other places, you know, you got to come along on a little bit of a personal journey with me. I don't think you're gonna see many of my relatives on camera, but that's what we're doing today. What a beautiful little place, man. Absolutely gorgeous. And the girl's not bad either. Real quick before we drive anywhere, I just want to say Allie has been loving going to McDonald's in Canada. Look at the Shania Twain fries she got today. They're very proud of Shania Twain, who lives in a different branch of my family's old lake house. She bought it from my dad's great aunt. Isn't that crazy? On the Campbell side. There's some Wayne Gretzky connections. They're very proud of their celebrities up here in Canada. In fact, the bag artwork on the McDonald's bag, designed by a McDonald's crew member from up here and then used locally. I love little things like that. And you said it tasted better?
Yeah.
All right, this is crazy. We're heading down the way David Willits' farm was. This is the road he took to church, the Governor's Road. We should be able to see it up here on the right, the plot of land where the Willits were farmers. Crazy. Dude, that's it right there. Lot 8, Concession 1 in this township. That is so cool. The old land records told me right where it was. Modern house there, no old house there. That's probably where David Sr., the likely Quaker, was buried. That's really cool. It's really neat seeing where they farmed by freaking hand, you know, digging out there in the dirt and doing what, I'm sure they had horses and plows, but you know what I mean. And now we're going to the town where my great-grandfather, who I knew, was a farmer as well. Oh, there it is out there, right up on that hill. This is it right here. Look at the welcome sign, the little village of St. George. So awesome to be back. The last time I was here was 19 years ago. It's changed a lot. There are so many new houses and so many new businesses. This was a very tiny village even when I was here as a teenager. But I do love this on the side of the new thrift shop here. Look at this mural. Welcome to St. George. Now, as you can see, it's not as tiny as Lynden, but it is quite a tiny village. This is the high street right here. Look at the tiny little post office. And right here across the street, you can see the South Dumfries Historical Society. And then right next to it, the St. George Memorial Community Hall entrance. My family used to rent this community hall out every winter and have big family gatherings that my dad only recently told me about. Like, oh yeah, we used to rent this hall and have these big Willits reunions. Right there, you know. My dad's dad died when my dad was 15. I never knew him. My grandpa, that is. But this is where he grew up. This was town, and they lived on the out of town in a little farm. So when they were kids, this was coming to town right here on this little tiny St. George High Street that now has all kinds of little shops and stuff. Look at this, the St. George Arms, this little pub right here. How cute is that? And driving in, like I showed you, the new strip malls and stuff that I never remember seeing. There were all these mansions that people had built and nice new communities and tract homes. I see this fancy little Italian restaurant over here. So this has become obviously a bedroom community for outside of Toronto, or Brantford is the nearest big town. Look at that tractor go by. Oh, Ye Old Dragon Ale House right there. There's even something for the kids. The Dragon's Treats. That wasn't here when I was here, no way. Just one tiny little grocery store and one tiny little pizza place. And then look at this, look at the castle here in the little downtown. From what I understand from my great aunt, this is now where the mayor lives. I don't know what it was originally for. It was somebody's house back in the day, and then it was a bunch of different things. I think it was an old folks home at one point. I think the mayor lives in this castle. Now, how crazy looking is that? I believe there were some movies shot in and around St. George. It's been in some films. Wasn't really clear on what those were. I'll ask my aunt coming up here in a little bit. But yeah, we've pretty much walked through half of the town now. Look at Abigail's Tea House, little Rustic Roots hair studio. That's a beautiful clock right there. St. George, established 1814. There's a little road leading to the gas station. You got the auto repair, the car wash, and one tiny little grocery store back there. That was the main grocery store. Although my great-grandparents lived on a farm, so my great-grandma had a big garden, and she'd make us like fresh pies and pull greens out of the garden, green beans and corn from the cornfields, and someone would kill a chicken next door and we'd get fresh chicken. There's a little church off that way, a sandwich shop. Look at this little deli right here. Now this is what I remember as being the pizza place, because I always remember the address is number 5 Beverly Street. And where I came from, nobody had number 5. You know, what kind of place is this? You have to remember, when I came here as a teenager, I think the first time I was maybe 12 or 13. I mean, I came when I was a baby too, but I don't remember that. I think the first time I really remember was when I was 11 or 12 or 13, right in there somewhere. This was like my Tom Sawyer adventure, right? City kid comes out here, gets to stay out on the farm property, and then comes to this little tiny town where people's street addresses are 5. And look at this, here's the United St. George Church. Wow, or St. George United Church, whichever one it is. Undoubtedly, my great-grandparents have been inside of this church. My aunt had a good story about All Saints Night or Halloween or something, where my grandfather came in from the farm with a hay wagon. He lit the hay wagon on fire and raced it through the town. It's just such a cute place. My dad has lived all over. He's lived here, Saskatchewan, obviously Southern California, where I'm born and where he lives now. And I asked him one time, like, what feels like home? Like in your brain, where's home? And he always says here, this is like the roots, you know? That's cute, the little tea house. All right, we're gonna go back down the high street now to the building I found next to the castle building. The most fascinating when I was a kid. I don't think there was anything in it, or I don't remember what was in it when I was little. But nowadays, there's a little coffee shop in this town, and I could use some caffeine. Oh my gosh, there's a little bric-a-brac shop, Classic Vault Emporium. There's also a little tattoo shop. Look at that, number 8 right there. You can go in, Allie. I can see her looking like, can I go in here? Look at this, I love this. The Canadian flag. Why are they flying the Canadian flag? Because it's freaking Canada, whoa. Okay, that store was so cute. They have all kinds of little crafts, local crafts. They even have some wooden mallets I could use for carving, you know, like doing all my wood carvings at home. Unfortunately, like a custom made one, a locally made one. Unfortunately, they only take cash. And like a moron, when I was in Niagara Falls, I didn't exchange any US currency. So we might go to the Bank of Montreal later and exchange some currency. But at the moment, just cruising around St. George, waiting for my aunt to be done at the sewing bee. She's doing a demonstration. She does all kinds of quilting and stuff like that. We'll meet up with her and see where the day goes. But right now, down to that building I was telling you about, down to get some coffee. Look at this, there's a little Main Street gift shop. I keep getting distracted by every little cute thing in this town. Oh, this one says MasterCard. Okay, let's try one more shop before the coffee. I'm sorry, we're getting distracted. Okay, that was so cool. They have St. George mugs in there. Don't tell my grandma, I got one for her. I got one for my dad if they survive the flight home. Look at this, the South Dumfries Historical Society. The question is, when is it open? When is it open? We are open Saturdays from 11 to 2. All right, well, my question was answered. All right, so now we're going down here to the old mill. Now, I don't remember anything being in this place. All right, it's like an old feed and seed and an old mill right there. And now they've got a coffee shop in the basement, an animal hospital upstairs, and a flower shop and everything. So downtown St. George is really happening. She was saying that there's a program called the Murdoch Mysteries that's filmed here, a couple of movies, some Hallmark movies, and so looks like little St. George is becoming famous. Although I gotta tell you, like every time I meet Canadians from Ontario, and I say, oh, I've got family from there, they say, where? And even if they're from very close by, like 15 minutes down the road or so, when I say St. George, no one ever knows where that is. So I hope it becomes a little more famous. It'll make it easier on me to explain where my family's from. Oh, how cute is that? All right, We're going into the Old Mill Cafe downstairs here. Hopefully it's open and we'll try and get some coffee. Oh, look at that little dog. He's so small. Oh, okay, the Gone Fishing sign isn't for today. They're open. Coffee. Oh, I love seeing these. I just love it. Oh, there's the little St. George dragon right there. And look at this little cafe in the basement of the Old Mill. Oh, it's so great. All these little snacks down here. Look at the little pastries. I love it. Unbelievable, even a gluten-free cookie. Oh, it's neat seeing the old pictures on the wall from my family's time. I haven't seen a lot of pictures of St. George from those times, mostly just of people, you know, that we've got. That's why I wish that little historical society was open, man. I'd love to see some old pictures of this place. That is so neat. Okay, that's adorable. We met the older couple who actually bought and restored the mill to put all these businesses in it. We were looking at all these historic photos of St. George. Allie, how's the lemonade?
It's so good.
My latte was perfect, so if anybody's coming to St. George and needs a vanilla latte, these ones are perf. Do people say perf? I'm out of touch. Allie just said no. She says people do not say perf. All right, I just got the call, so we're off to see my Aunt Diane now. I can't explain why, but it just does feel good to be back here. It just feels good. It's a tiny little town, but I love it. Okay, we're going up the street. My great aunt still lives here. She grew up here. She's actually pretty close to the cemetery where my great grandmother's buried and all that. The only thing that could make this better, well, other than them still being alive, is if my dad was here. Oh, I would love that. Genuinely though, and this is a weird ask, if there are any historians from this area that I could talk to next time I come back, I would love to get your info. Okay, here we are. Going off on a family adventure now. Do some catching up with relatives. I'm just finding out that somewhere in town is a new subdivision with a Willits Street.
After the veterans.
Oh, wow.
And the veterans had to be from St. George area, and they had to be well known.
And Grandpa's brother was in Normandy, right?
Correct.
That is so cool.
Oh,
I'm gonna get out and take a picture.
Yeah, but see, and I had a car behind me, and he's going,
wow.
What the hell is this woman doing?
Okay, sorry for the wind noise. There's a storm blowing through now. Look at this. This is named after my great-grandfather's brother, George Woodburn Willits. He's in Normandy. He's buried in Normandy. He died in the D-Day attack. Look at that. The guy in the house behind us. Are you taking a picture of the house? I'd sell it to you if you want. I love that. That is so neat. Willits Crescent.
Now.
So this is St. George United Cemetery. So connected to the church in town, the old church. Did you guys go to that church?
Yes, but now the who's taken it over? The county has taken it over.
Oh wow.
But Grandma Willits's is somewhere.
Your grandma.
Yes.
Okay, so here's my great-grandfather's grave, and his wife, Roy Willits, apparently, I didn't know this, had a brain tumor, and so he had a lot of struggles, because back then they couldn't operate. But there's his wife there, Grandma Willits, that everybody, you know, my great aunts all grew up with, their Grandma Willits right there. And she's the one that told your dad to buy the farms.
Yes.
So it's her fault.
Yes.
That you had to milk cows. I love that. Yes. I love being out here with my Aunt Diane. She is the best. She is the cutest. My favorite.
She was very quiet, very reserved, very proper, had a very clean house, didn't really get along with my mother.
But would you say she was sweet, at least to you guys?
Oh, she was very, very nice.
Oh.
Yeah, she was very nice. And she was very talented. She could sew. She had a lot of sadness, but who she loved, get this, was Red Skeleton.
Really?
Oh my word.
So a good sense of humor then.
She had a good sense of humor.
Oh, that's neat. So that's my great-great-grandfather. His son, my great-grandpa that I knew, isn't in the cemetery. He's on one of the stones. His wife is here, but he's buried on his farm. But you know how we saw the Willits, the little Willits Street in town, named after George Woodburn Willits, who died in the war, but also named for this guy, Earl Willits, my great-grandpa's brother here, who was also a World War II veteran. And look at this, this is really neat. There's Earl, and then in memory of George Woodburn Willits, killed in France. So he has a stone here too. And then down here's Aunt Annie.
Yes, that's what they did.
Oh, so they have all the siblings here.
Yes.
So is Annie buried here, or?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So she's buried with her brother. That is actually really sweet.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. It is a pretty place.
Isn't it? It's well kept.
It's gorgeous out here. But I remember when there was nothing around here. It was all farmland as far as the eye could see. And now there's houses. What's that big building over there? Look at that huge thing.
Dutch Reformed Church.
Oh, wow.
And on a Sunday, it is filled.
Wow.
With pickup trucks and children.
This is funny because my aunt's showing us her spot where she's going to be one day. She was saying, maybe I could lay down and you could take a picture. And so that's it. This is my great-grandma. That's your mom. This is my grandpa right here, Dad's dad.
Yes.
But his ashes were scattered, so it's a memorial. And then there's my great-grandpa, Lorne. But he's buried on the farm. And here's my grandma, Elena M. Johnston. I love that.
1919.
And all the Johnsons were from this area too, going way, way back. So
Yes, they were.
wow. So you've got ancestors all over Brant County. It's Brant County here, right?
Yeah, it's Brant County.
Brant County and Beverly Township and Ancaster and all these
Beverly
places.
Township is more Lynden, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I really loved Grandma Willits. I still sleep with her blankets. And unless Allie makes me blankets, I'll sleep with the blankets Allie makes me. But I love Grandma Willits. I still have all my Grandma Willits blankets. And she was the best. She was the best. So pretty.
So there's the castle.
Yeah. This is the mayor's house. This is
At
Harrisburg.
At one time, Harrisburg was the place to go on a Saturday night.
Really?
Not Brantford, but Harrisburg.
Okay.
And this is where all of the trains came in. And my first and my brother's first and where we went to school was right here.
Really? Oh, on this road?
Right here.
In this house?
It was a school.
Oh, that little brick building.
Yeah, little brick building.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is when you lived on a farm out here and there was
Yeah.
no flushing toilet or anything?
No.
And that was your school, a little one-room schoolhouse?
One-room school. And then they built that little piece that was, that you
Wow.
noticed on
And
the
it's someone's
side.
house now.
We will see it when we come back out again.
Okay, wow.
It was a huge, busy railway, and it was, yikes, see, I can't even see it now because it's...
Behind the houses, maybe?
Houses are on.
So there were train tracks here.
There was, and it was and there was also a bridge to get over the railway, and there was also, I thought, a huge set of stairs to get down to the track.
And now it's basically just a neighborhood.
My mother, no. My grandmother and my grandfather were the caretakers of the train station.
Really?
And he was a brakesman, whatever that is,
Yeah, on the railroad.
on the railway.
That's when you had to actually
I'm gonna
turn
have
the
to
brakes
pull
yourselves.
along
It's
time.
been a long
But
time.
you see where the guardrails are?
Yeah.
That this used to be a bridge with on the sides, so the cars couldn't fall over.
Oh.
And this here was the railway.
Down in this gully? Okay, so that's where the train tracks were.
Yeah,
Where was the train station?
it was down there.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was big, and there was a lot going on. Back on this side, back before when I was a kid, there was a bank.
So the whole town's
And
disappeared
we
now.
never went to town for groceries because in this house right here, it was a store. It was a grocery store.
Really?
That's where we got our groceries.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I'm looking at it, I'm going, oh my God, it hasn't really changed. No. And it's now paved, but it never was. Now you have to envision, when I show you this house, you have to envision it without a second story.
Okay.
Because there was only one story on it. So my mom and dad owned it, and then I don't know who, and then Annie owned it.
So the
and Noreen and John decided it needed to have two stories.
Oh, so Noreen built the second
So
story.
he took the roof off, and then you went to the washroom and you could look up in the sky, and half their furniture got ruined. But here is where my grandma Willits lived.
Really?
And it is the same house. It's been tidied up, but the same front door, the same everything.
So that's my great-great-grandmother's house.
Yep. Yep.
And this is where they lived when your grandpa was running the train station and all
Yes.
that? Wow.
And this is where all the children grew up, and this is where my dad grew up.
Wow.
Yep.
It's so small. I can't believe that all those kids
I
fit in
know.
that little house.
And that's what they did. I don't know whether they stacked them or what they did. But it had a veranda. Now, mind you, the roof has been done and everything. But
Allie, take a picture of that.
the same, just this exactly.
So this
For
was
the
all your
farm.
dad's farm down here?
But it was called the Maney, and it's because long ago, a family called the Maneys. And when I moved over to a new part of the world, I thought every land like this was
Had a
called,
name.
Was called a Maney.
Oh, it was called
And-
a Maney.
And there's a lovely, and we called it a river, but it was a stream, but it was deep.
So there's no farmhouse. They just lived up here in the town, and then
Well,
he would
you'll
just go
see
out
the
here. and farm.
farmhouse.
Oh, there was a farmhouse.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So that was his property.
You said you thought witches lived in this house?
Yeah, because they were kind of weird. And I was scared as a kid. I was just a little...
But right there was the old grocery store.
Yep.
And behind it down the hill was the
Yep.
train station?
Yep.
It was still there
And
when you
we-
were little?
Yep. And Faye and I used to sit on the hill and watch the trains come through.
Wow.
Because
When
we
did they
had to
rip it
take-
up? In 60s or something?
they
70s? You
dated
used to
on it.
swim in this pond?
Yeah. And the cows, that's where they got their water. And it was a community, everybody. It was a community.
You almost drowned in it?
entertainment. Yeah, I did. Because I didn't know how to swim.
Well, I'm glad you didn't.
And yes, a house.
So this is the farmhouse he bought after that other house?
Yes.
And you grew up here?
Yes.
So that means that my dad's dad grew up there.
This is where, and your brother.
My grandpa, yeah.
Your-
I love
oh,
that.
yeah,
Your
yeah.
brother.
Yeah, my brother was not the veranda with the two windows, but the next one. That was his bedroom. And my bedroom was up at the top on the right-hand side, and
Wow.
Faye's was on the left-hand side.
Could I get out and take a picture of you? I don't think anyone's home, but if they are, I'll just tell them what I'm doing here.
Yeah. There used to be a barn back in behind the house, and that's where Dad had the cattle.
Where the blue house is?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll have to turn around and I'll have
Yeah,
to get a
we-
picture of that. Look at this. So this is the farmhouse my great-grandfather bought. My Aunt Diana's telling in Harrisburg, Ontario, which as you can see is a tiny place. Across the street was the Methodist church. Now it's a park. The graveyard's still there. And so he owned this house, and behind it at one point was a barn. He had cattle and everything. And so my great aunt's telling me how she grew up here and which one was her window and everything. I don't think anyone's home right now. But this is gorgeous. I love this. It's so quiet. I mean, it's barely a town here. And I guess my great-great-grandpa was a brakeman and ran the station down here, the train station that's no longer there. I love learning about this stuff. This is so neat for me, guys. I know it's very personal and weird, but we're just having the best time.
And I've been in every room of that house because I had friends and friends.
But that's it. That's the end of the town. So back there behind those houses used to look like this too.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
So that's where the
And then
Methodist
there
church
is,
was. Oh, there's a cemetery.
There's a cemetery back in there. And of course we played in the cemetery. And yeah, you see.
Yeah, now it's Harrisburg Church Park.
And that's where it was.
So is everybody a Methodist?
Well, in Harrisburg, there was the good people, and and they were on this side of the bridge. The bad people that drank and were hoodlums, they were on the other side of the bridge. And at Halloween, we never ever went over the bridge because we were too afraid to.
All right, we're
dance
driving into
house.
Troy.
Right.
So this is where Grandma Willits' family, the Johnstons, are from here. Troy.
Right.
Or at least her parents' farm was here.
No,
So
there
this
doesn't.
is
No, there doesn't,
Grandma's
because
parents'
he
farm.
has a truck, and his truck is not here. So let's pretend that we're lost. The veranda, the front door is still there.
Wow.
This is where Grandma Johnson. So this is where Jim lived
When he was a baby.
when he was a baby,
And that's their farm back here?
and that was their farm back there, and that's where the barns were. And about a year ago,
This is
I
cool.
had an ugly picture that I did
Take a
not
picture,
want
Allie, out
any
the window.
longer.
Picture of this house?
Yeah,
Wow.
And I knocked on their door and I gave it to them.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's neat.
And
Oh, so then it wouldn't matter if they were home. Then they would be happy with you.
And that basement window there,
Yeah.
it was where the potatoes went down at harvest time.
That's so crazy. What a beautiful house.
It is. Saying that my kids say, don't drive with Mom because she doesn't know what she's doing.
Wow, it's crazy wet.
Oh, I just can't believe this.
This is like the storm of the century all of a sudden. Okay, Allie had a little sewing class here. And then my cousin Grant brought me some old family film. I cannot wait to see what's on that. And now we're going to dinner. Yay! All right, now we're taking my Aunt Diane to the Swiss Chalet. There's a grocery store right across the street for me. Pick up some gluten-free items for later in the hotel. Just one of those days. It's really nice. I saw a cousin. I saw an uncle. I saw an aunt. I am happy. I am very happy. All right, so as you can see, night has descended upon the village of St. George, Ontario, Canada. We dropped my Aunt Diane off, and then tomorrow we're gonna go out to the lake to see some cousins, and we're gonna go see my other aunts on different days. Made some plans, changed some plans. Like I told Allie, you know, 3 days or so is not so much to sacrifice when I have been neglectful and haven't been here for 20 years. She's just one of my all-time favorite human beings on the planet. I wish everybody could have an Aunt Diane. She's the best. She was sewing those little slippers with Allie earlier and driving us around and talking about all kinds of stuff. Then we took her to dinner. It was just wonderful. And I know it's weird, not our normal adventure with history or roadside attractions or a theme park or something like that. A little personal adventure. But I just wanted to share a little bit of the personal experience with you guys and just a little bit of history. See, I have some roots somewhere. We didn't see my great-grandma's farm today. Maybe I will be able to include some shots either here if we go by the time this is edited, or maybe include it in part of another adventure or something like that. But it's interesting because my grandpa that I never knew met my Nana that I do know, who lives down in Southern California with me, because she was visiting a farm near that area. So I literally wouldn't exist if it wasn't for this place and the other places we saw today. And it's just really neat to make contact with some history that actually personally involves me. And maybe it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but you know what? Life is supposed to be a symphony, not just one note, and that's definitely what today was. A little bit of a different flavor, a little bit of a different sound, and I'm happy. But we're gonna head out of the village now, since we're not going over to Ye Olde Dragon Ale House. We're gonna head back and hotel and sleep well. Thanks for watching. Lots of other videos here to watch. If this wasn't your cup of tea, I will be back for another adventure very soon. Goodbye.